Before we dig in, a quick thank you to the sponsors ready to grow with the Soil Sisters. Fed and Happy is the official nutrient provider for the Soil Sisters projects because we believe in the Fed and Happy philosophy that if the worms won't eat it, neither will we. And Tejas Tonic is the official beverage of the Texas Soil Sisters. We especially love that the hemp for Tejas Tonic is organically farmed in the Texas Hill Country, with farms in both Dripping Springs and Lukenbach, Texas. The Soil Sisters podcast is powered by B&P Electric. Whether you're building, remodeling, installing low-voltage landscape lighting, or in need of an inspection, B&P is your Central Texas electrical contractor. Find links to our sponsors in the podcast show notes or head over to txsoilsisters.co. You're listening to the Soil Sisters podcast, where we dig in on family farming and ranching, regenerative agriculture, healthy living, and planting seeds in our community. We invite you to listen, subscribe, and grow with the Soil Sisters. I'm Joanna Newting, joined by my blood, soul, and soil sister, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Hello, sister.
Hello, you Regen Ag School graduates.
Yeah, that was so great. And I'm really so excited that we just get to sit here and nerd out on all the things, the sweet and the informative and the powerful things that we learned last week at our Regen Ag School.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was still marinating in it several days afterwards. And, you know, when you would come visit me at my place in Oakland where I had my studio and I had just the wall of paper and sticky notes where I just plugged everything away. I believe in the power of sticky note inspiration.
Yes.
And so, of course, I had to do that for Regen Ag School. And so I'm going to give you my elevator of pitch of what I learned at Regen Ag School. And then, let's just rave and get the party started.
I love it. Go.
All right. So my succinct learnings: plan for profit and anticipate setbacks, plus expect many failures with quality of life and holistic goals in mind. Enjoy the process and journey and know that you are not alone.
Amen.
Right? Amen. It's a prayer. It is a prayer.
Yes, it is.
And
yes,
talk about feeling empowered and capable of asking the right questions, which is more than half the battle.
Yes, yes. And connected and supported and just like right place, right time, right folks, right information. It really is just so many wonderful things about the group that we were with and the individuals that came from all across the United States, and Holistic Management International, the group that put the class on that we did, the instructors that came also from across the United States.
Which, by the way, remember when I told this story, I read about Josh and Tara, the couple in North Dakota that moved into holistic management, moved back onto the family ranch when they didn't think that was something they ever wanted to do. They were two of our instructors.
And that is the way that worked.
I mean, how serendipitous. It was beautiful.
Perfect. Yes.
And they're so great. And Tara is so funny.
Yes.
And Josh is so patient and he had such amazing things to share. And this whole idea, we were at regenerative agriculture school, but it was looking through the holistic management lens.
Yes.
And, I've been aware of HMI, but it wasn't ever something that I really focused on. And as I'm there and we're going through and learning these holistic management principles, I was just like, oh, well, this is how I live my life.
Yes.
I know how to do this. Mm-hmm. I get it. And so it was so cool to see and meet all these other people who too are living a holistic lifestyle and care about these things personally that has brought them to regenerative agriculture and, holistic management.
Yes. And it was so exciting because I teach this. This is what I try to help people do, is live holistically and live a regenerative lifestyle so that all the energy that we use to put into whatever endeavors or enterprises that we work in feeds us back with our abundance, how we live, but also in the energy and the joy that we get from doing the work. So to have a 6-day class that literally breaks it down and helps you to see the questions to ask, the way to frame things. Just, there's no one answer because it's all about context. So it is a framework for making decisions, and it's all based around what our holistic goal is. And so that's something that everyone gets to do all the time, is decide what your holistic goal is for your life.
Well, and, in the practical sense of ranching and managing, your animal herd, your grassland and things like that, there were a lot of people there that are from multi-generational families, operations, and that are in these transition phases like we are. Mm-hmm. And our mentors, our parents, the people that we look up to, they can just look out and see these things.
Yeah.
And they can just say, oh, I've, got 12 days of grazing in this pasture, or I'm looking at my cows. Well, what are you looking at? Well, they know it, but they don't know how to teach it, or they can't exactly explain everything. And we were given formulas and tools to go out and figure up these things, learning what, animal days per acre and how to figure that, and all of these very practical things that so many ranchers, farmers, newbies into agriculture need to know. I mean, I drive by a sad field often on my way home and see that these animals are still out there looking for forage way when they should be hunkered down sleeping for the evening by the watering hole. It's like, these are things that people need help with, I think, and just understanding that there is a tool and a way of learning these things, that you don't just have to have 40 years of experience under your belt. It's pretty rad.
Exactly. Like real life things that you can do, and putting our hands, and this is what I love, is having the experience of walking out into the field and looking at the forage and determining whether that's good or not, and seeing how we can measure, and then being given 3 tools.
Yeah, 3 different ones, 3 ways.
So what works for you? Do you like this? Use that one. Is that easier? Use that. So this is I need everyone to know that there are options, and there is not one way to do things. There is the way that works best for us. And when we find that, it really works best for everyone, but just for us to do that, because then we open up the space and the energy for it to be good and successful, and not other people don't have to do it like that, but they have to do it the way they want to do it. So that's another thing that was just so heart opening about this information. It really is, you get to take your situation into account, your family, your personality, the way your family wants to live, the land that they live on, the way, the animals that they want to raise, or the crops, or whatever it is. We get to make these decisions.
Well, and that is part of that holistic management principle. I think it may be the first one, nature functions in wholes.
Yep.
So, whether or not that's each member of your family, each of them are wholes within the whole. And so thinking about our family operations that way, and getting to see, what are the gifts that each person has, and how might they want to share those with the bigger whole.
Yeah.
And then, thinking practically within your operation, each enterprise is its own whole within the whole. And I really loved just the practicality of separating those things out, understanding all of the cogs for each enterprise. And it is a standalone thing that then gets looked at holistically with everything else.
Yes.
And that, and then just the whole simple, but concept of planning for your profit.
Yeah.
How much money do I need to make to live the life that I want to live? And then how do we get there?
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Exactly. And it's so funny. I told Dion, how long have we been hearing this? Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. But this was just a different way to see it. And man,
because it's not just about you.
Exactly.
This is about your entire operation and like your family.
Yes.
And the bigger things. So like we pay more attention.
Yep.
Because like most people, we end up putting ourselves on the back burner.
Yeah.
We put our whole
yeah.
aside and think about the greater. And when we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't serve the whole.
Yeah. We're way more beneficial to the whole when we all take care of our individual needs and the way that we do things. And this is the beauty of families. Everybody has something to share and has something to offer. And you don't have to do something you don't want to do. This is what I really want to help our family understand. You don't have to participate in a way that doesn't work for you. We want everyone participating at their highest level and greatest joy, because that is going to make things successful. And if you don't want to do it, we're not asking you to do it. We're going to figure that out. We're, in all of our lives and operations, if we do what brings us the greatest joy and then figure out how to get whatever else needs to be done by the person who's most skilled and most enjoys that task. So yes, thank you.
Yes. And you just made me think about our littles, our cousins, and this being one of the aha moments I had at school was, the disservice for us was that we participated, we did work, but we weren't learning the business of agriculture. We weren't learning how our operation worked.
Right.
And I think I can just see them in my mind's eye, Ella and Breland, these little bossy go-getter girls that are not afraid of anything out there with us, learning and either getting really excited about it or not, but either way, having the chance and to have those memories.
Yes.
And of course, we know all the boys can help, but we have to watch out for the nuding boys who might injure themselves. So,
also we know that Ella and Breland can milk a goat faster than we can.
This is true. This is totally true. But I just love thinking about it because that was one of the things that you have to think about in holistic management is what is your succession plan?
Yeah.
How do you first make the operation profitable? And then how do you keep it and pass it on to your family in a way that is taking everyone's holistic goals in mind? And you're not overstressing people or overburdening people or passing off, lots of tax debt or equipment debt or livestock debt, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So, whenever we're thinking through the succession plan, I'm like, okay, well, if you and I want to do this and nobody else wants to do this, well, I don't have children.
Yeah.
So how do we you have a son who knows if he wants to be involved, but we need to rally the troops, man. We got to find some people that will get excited about this.
Yes.
And so that was a big aha for me we're not just figuring out the succession plan from, the fourth generation to the fifth. We have to be thinking fourth, fifth to sixth and setting it up for 7 and 8,
Yes. Yes, I love that. The Dixon Water Foundation essentially has that. That was the place out in Decatur where we went to this Regen Ag School. And so I'm excited to connect with the guy that Casey directed us to.
Yes. Yes. So Casey Wade is the president of the Dixon Water Foundation. And on our last day, he did a talk on drought planning, which was epic.
Yes.
Such important key information and questions to ask. But I was asking him about how they had worked with the conservation of that land. And he had mentioned the Texas Agricultural Land Trust, and that they are somebody who thinks like a rancher, and they're considering the things like a rancher would. And so he had, given me a contact for our area to check in and talk to him about ranch future, succession planning, and just any advice that he might have. But this is a huge issue for so many people. We learned that very, very clearly at Regen Ag School. And so I look forward to putting together a podcast and talking about this specifically to help people.
Well, and which is part of what we're doing, is trying to help Texas farm and ranch land stay in the family. And this is literally what so much of our conversation was about in between classes or listening to, the speaker speaking. We were each having our own conversations about what it has been like to be a part of a family, a ranching family, a farming family, and the transition that's happening between some of, the older folks and the generation before them that still have control of the land. And it really is some very important information that needs to be discussed, because this is important. Our land and the food and animals that are grown on it are what is going to feed our community, our communities, our families. And, housing developments don't feed people.
No. Corner stores and parking lots and solar farms don't feed people. No. So the part about it that came up a lot was the need for a mediator oftentimes. And not because anybody's, wanting to fight about it, but it just...
Although that could be the case.
Oh, it totally could be the case.
Yeah.
But one of the way it was posed, and I thought it was so good, is that you can't be both a player and the referee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes,
Brilliant.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Josh and Tara were great about talking about the way you frame things, and,
Gosh, yes.
Just being really appreciative of each person involved, and just really looking at them and valuing what they bring and what they, what they offer, and also asking them what they want their legacy to be, what's important to them that carries on in that operation. And I'm like, yeah, if each person just felt heard and they knew what was important, then, I think it just opens up doors for the planning to just be smoother. And, and I pray every day that the Lord helps us to open our own minds and see things differently, and open our family's eyes and all of our hearts to be able to come together and come up with an amazing plan to heal the land that raised us.
Yes. Yes. And I feel so strongly now that we can. And I do have I have questions, like real questions. Before, I didn't even know what questions to ask. And I feel like I've learned enough to have a good understanding of what we're doing here. And now it's made it so much more clear how I can get involved, and the good questions that I can ask to help better understand, or, decide what our next steps can be. So,
it looks like you have an underwriting announcement coming up there, sis.
We do. We'll be right back.
So the other thing that was so great about Regen Ag School is when you're trying to work on your own family's project, your own family's stuff, you get bogged down emotionally in it. So being somewhere where you're evaluating someone else's land, you're evaluating someone else's livestock, you're working on a budget for a fictitious family with all of their different quirks and the things they want and don't want and their age and where they live and what's happening and, what kind of time they want back or who wants to retire. Like you're just working a giant story problem.
Yes.
And it was so fun. I haven't done school stuff like that in a really, really long time.
I have never enjoyed school stuff until this. I'm not kidding. This was the best 6 days of school I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm like, oh, this is why people like to learn stuff. I feel like it finally was what I wanted to know, what I want to learn, what I feel is the most valuable information for me to be gaining right now. So it was mind opening, heart bursting, so supportive and loving. I can't get over it.
Well, and yes, the supportive and loving, everybody, 100% of the people are people you just want to love and support and cheer on and help and just be a part of their journey. And and just feeling it at the core of my being, like this is all true. Nobody is BSing around here. Yeah. This is real stuff.
So good.
So the community, will end up having probably quite a bit of them on the podcast, but just the, going back and talking about the working on somebody else's project, it was also receiving the framework of this is what somebody's books look like. These are all the accounts. I don't know. This talk, whatever, all the
income
things.
And expenses.
Well, just all the stuff for each of the enterprises and having it all together and then walking away with a thumb drive with those spreadsheets already set up where I'm just like, please and thank you, because it would take, I would never do that.
Yeah.
But it was great to have that opportunity to do that project with you because yes, we know we can live well together. We were raised together. We've cleaned and worked and done all of the things alongside each other forever. We've even worked at the same places, but we had never sat down and done any sort of budgeting kind of stuff together before. And it was set up like the Amazing Race where it's just like
crazy.
They download all of this information and then after lunch, it's just give you a whiteboard and some spreadsheets and it's like, go, you have to increase your profits by at least 15%. What are you going to do? And so it was a good exercise for you and I as a business partners.
Yes.
How'd you think we did?
I thought we did great. I felt great about it. And I was like, yes, I totally know. And the things that you were thinking were not the things I was thinking. And that made me so happy. And just what each of us bring to the table, I feel so great about our skills and how they work together. And Dion and whoever else wants to get involved. I know we're really a bunch of smart people who can get things done. And this was just giving us the tools and then letting us use those tools in a non-threatening environment. Oh my gosh. Well, and that, so this is another thing, planning for drought when it's raining. This is the same thing as going through and creating a budget when you have money. Like, don't wait until you're broke or in the hole or, 6 weeks 2 months into the drought before you think about how you're going to destock your cattle or come up with more money to feed them more hay or bringing in more food. So that just felt great. I'm like, we can do this. I teach people all the time. I'm like, okay, when you're feeling great about things, I want you to sit down and write a love note to yourself and think about the things that you think about when you're upset so that you can give yourself a little pep talk, because when you're upset, you can't come up with those words. So it's just like using the time when the energy is flowing to do the thing that needs to be done that you're not going to be able to do as well when you're under pressure.
Like me getting all of the words down and organized for our SIG grant.
Yes, sister. Thank you. That was amazing. I'm serious. So proud of you and so thankful. Way to go. That is really an excellent outline. And I'm excited for our meeting next week so that we can start talking about it.
Yes. And we've got eyeballs that are going to be looking at it, poking holes in it. Mm-hmm. And yes, next week's Soil Sisters Radio Hour guest, Miss Andy Marsh, will be joining us, and she's a soil expert. And we're going to get to bounce some of this stuff off of her and formally invite her to be a part of the project. So
yes,
hopefully she doesn't reject me on the air.
Joanna. Yes. The 16th, Andy Marsh. Yeah. I'm super excited about that because she is, she's done Dr. Elaine Ingham's Soil Food Web. She is a microscope. She's willing to count those little bacteria and
the microbiota.
Yes, where I'm like, I see this, I see this, I see this, but to go through and count them all and be a certified technician, that just wasn't in the cards for me.
I'm not surprised at all. So the other piece of the holistic management that was very important, which of course, obviously, if it's called Regen Ag School, we know that we're talking about these, soil health principles, but seeing slideshows of people in action with like the equipment that they're using and that they are planting straight into some growing alfalfa.
Yeah, like 3 feet tall.
I'm just like, thank you. This is the show and tell that we need to transform minds.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It was so good.
It was like,
and by the way, if you follow at Soil Sisters podcast on Instagram, each day I tried to put together a pretty down and dirty summary of what we learned and some pictures. And so some of these that I'm talking about are on there, but it sure was satisfying for them to say soil armor is the number one most important thing.
Yes. Yes, please. And thank you. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I love it.
So I had thought about and talked to you about, well, why don't we just use hemp in our cover crop mix and make it compete with everything else? And then, it gets 2 to 4 feet tall and we graze it out with everything else. So yesterday I was having a call with Andrew Bish, B-I-S-H. He is the president. I didn't say a bad word. So he's the president of the Hemp Feed Coalition. So right now they have approved hemp cake feed, for laying hens, for, chickens, egg chickens. And so right now they have all of the research they need for cattle and for sheep. So that will be the next it'll be called ruminants, but those are the only 2 ruminants that they've done the studies on. So it will be approved soon for us to be able to feed this hemp cake feed. So like in a bagged feed to these animals. And so I asked him, I said, well, what if I wanted to graze it out? And I told him this cover crop scenario. And he said, well, that would be federally illegal. because we have to do testing on the leaf structure, part of the structure. And,
I need a sound effect for eye rolling.
yeah.
Wonder what that sounds like.
Yeah. We need to get Dion on a sound effect disc. That would, yeah, we could use that. She would know exactly what we needed. So that is now means, okay, we have to do a whole new testing sample for grazing our ruminants on
A plant.
on hemp.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little discouraging, but instead of having to go through the whole FDA side of things, you can also go about it through your own state's agricultural department. So the fact that it is a priority, according to Sid Miller, for the state of Texas to begin growing in earnest industrial hemp, not just the medical hemp that everybody thinks about, but that if it's a priority for the state and we want to do that, we can, work it through and get it approved just for interstate in the state of Texas. So I feel like that's the fastest path to making it happen. But if we wanted to do it and just graze those cattle out and it's just the ones we eat, we can do that because we're not selling them. Right. So we can potentially do the testing and do the testing on the animals. Yeah. Figure out how to do that, but it would just have to be private money doing it in the interim until a real study can be put together.
I was going to ask you something.
I know Quentin told me the other day, I talk too long and then he forgets what he's going to say and then he doesn't care anymore.
Well, that is
like, cool.
He has a point.
Cool. Thanks. Appreciate that. Hope I haven't bored you all to sleep and you can keep your car on the road right now.
It's not boring. I just am paying attention and then all of a sudden that thing, I need to make better notes.
Yeah. Just
write it down when I come up.
Write it down.
Well, I do want to say that part of what I am super excited about the land planning with HMI and the way that they frame everything is start with what you want. Start with the end goal in mind so that you understand what it is, where you're trying to go. So talking about imagining it and understanding the history of the land, but then just having a vision and sitting and daydreaming and envisioning what you want the land to look like and what you want to be doing on the land and how things are functioning. So.
And then you just go do it.
Yes.
That you just have to do it and know that you will be mostly right most of the time. Yeah. But assume that you could be wrong.
Exactly. But just like really, if we can just be mostly right most of the time, then we're successful.
And the other piece of that, so you're saying as you dreamscape things into a plan, that one of the key things about these holistic goals is that it's a living document.
Yes.
So you don't set it and then tie yourself down to it. You're setting it and you're checking in with your team and your family and what Hillary said, you do have to stop and turn around and look at where you've come and notice how far you've come. Because when you're transforming a ranch or a family property or the soil, it's something every day. It feels so slow. You want it to be done and ready, but it's a slow but steady process. And so you have to stop and turn around and look and appreciate or you'll go mad.
Yeah. We're also managing for what we want. So often people are like, please, oh, please, oh, please. No, nothing terrible happened today. I understand. I lived that life, but now it's like, okay, what do I want? What does success look like for me today? And maybe that's, marking 5 tasks off my list, or maybe that's resting and having some recovery time. Like it's going to be something different all the time, but we have to constantly manage for what we want and not what we don't want.
Well, and isn't that what we tend to do as humans? We just
Project negatively in the future.
and we'll look and just looking at the thing that we don't want.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole idea of, not that, but focusing on the weakest link.
Yeah.
Like, who cares what you think you want here? You know, you don't want that particular quote unquote weed or whatever, but it is discovering what the weakest link in your operation is. And that is where you focus.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. We can focus upstream all we want, but if something's blocking the funnel,
Yeah.
you gotta
Get
fix
to the root
so we can
cause.
feed the funnel. Yeah. So, those sorts of things and practical ways to look at that and see where that weak link is. Those sorts of things were super valuable for me as, my entrepreneur brain, and being able to just look at it also from a practical perspective within our own family and, the context of everything. And
Management decisions create outcomes. I really liked that one.
well, it's planning
Exactly.
and then testing your decisions.
Yeah. Monitoring. I love it. Plan, implement, monitor, adjust. Plan, implement, monitor, adjust. And it is just a circle. And that is life. Like, make the plan, implement the plan, and then how is it going? Is it good? Are you driving toward the cliff? Adjust.
Yeah. Fiery crash. Yes. That, and it's nice to have each of these instructors that were up there giving us an example from their own operation.
Yes.
So you're not getting lectured to by people that aren't actually out there doing
the
it.
work. Yeah. Yeah. Some heartbreaking scenarios, and just feeling empowered to have better tools than they had and maybe that tool is my age and wisdom, because maybe they had this information, but they were a little young and made decisions that cost them dearly. But just being here where I can here at a place in my own life where I can hear what is being said to me, and I can recognize and how to utilize that in my own life. And it is thrilling. I mean, I've been excited about this journey that we're on, as full of fits and starts and stops and not knowing what we're doing and just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And I now feel so much more prepared for whatever comes, because it's like I've gotten enough information to be really clear about what we're doing on the land. We're grazing for potential during the growing season. We are grazing for, utilizing what we have during the dormant season. Watching our cattle, having a good idea of what we're looking for and what the intended outcome is. It's like, we don't want to pay for hay. You want to use your cows as a tool to make the land better and to make the grass better, to make the cows healthier.
Well, and I love when they say, if you're feeding your cattle, or any of your animals, if you're feeding your animals, you are working for your animals. When they are grazing, they are working for you. Like, yes.
So, one of the things that I have brought home with me from our little school is our aha moments. So in the mornings, Dion and I are talking about our aha moments from the day before.
I love that.
I know.
That's a great idea,
It should absolutely, if we're not learning something in our lives, then what are we doing? So that has been something that I'm excited to just continue. And even, I was thinking about last night trying to figure out what my aha moment was. And I was like, Crystal, wait till tomorrow. And then I couldn't think of anything this morning. We got up and walked 3.5 miles. So I wasn't thinking about that, but I think it's so important to recognize the little moments of brilliance that we have during the day and the light bulbs that go off and the connections that we put together. So
yes. And since, you and I were camping out in the La Quinta Motel together and sharing a bed, it was funny because we'd be getting ready to go to sleep and it's really quiet. And then I'm like, can I share my aha moment with you? Now I'm just going to have to write it down.
exactly.
I don't have anybody to share an aha moment with in bed.
Well, you can call me over coffee.
One of the other things that's so important to keep in mind when we're growing things is this whole idea that 10x is easier than 2x. So whatever we're working on, if we really are planning for profit, planning for our success, then if you're just planning on 2xing something, and let's just say we're talking about amp grazing your fields and you're having to put in some water lines and you're choosing a smaller trough because you're just like, we're just trying this out. Maybe we will double the herd. And if it goes well and you like it and you've spent all of that time and energy on that smaller infrastructure, then you're going to blow past the 2x. And then your weakest link is going to be that you don't have enough animals for the sales that you're growing or, your forage.
You don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the water for those animals. So yes, I love that. And also the idea of work on your best first.
Yes.
So often people want to say, oh, I got this crappy little something over here. Let me try to do something with that. Leave that. Cover crop that and work on your best piece of land first. Spend your money where you're already making money and tweak that so that you make that even better. And then you can add and go to the next best.
Priority and focus.
Love it.
And so we learned that. And again, another serendipitous moment. I was hanging out with some friends on Sunday and 10 extra profits was on the coffee table.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yes. I love that.
And, when we talk about that whole focus on your weak link, the one thing that they say is like, just focus on that. And then you can't fight the ebb and flow of life and what's happening in the markets and everything else. But you can focus on your operation and what is happening there. And, when as, commodity prices go up and down, you just having one set price, like this is the set price that I'm evaluating for my hay grazer or my heifers or whatever it is, because you're giving yourself this sense of inflation. If the commodity prices are great, then you can look at the year and be like, oh, well, I had a 30% profit, but in a down year, it's going to look just the opposite. So making sure you're just giving a kind of one set thing to always give yourself a benchmark to work from that truly shows you what your profitability is.
Yes.
The other thing that was so cool to learn is how nutrient dense the grass is in desert environments.
Yes. I love that. And I had just heard something about that. And then it rained. We got a ton of rain, however long ago it was that we got all that rain, and all my tomatoes were bursting. And so it's like they're watered down. The more water that is in the plant, the vegetable, then it is just watering down those nutrients. So yeah. And moving animals from land where it's drier to where it's wetter, they have more forage. Oftentimes that forage isn't as good for them. Well, they have to eat more of it.
Yeah. And so them talking about, so during dry times, less attention is needed for animal performance because the forage is so nutrient dense. So then in wet times when forage is growing like crazy, it's also giving them selection options. Right. So they're just going and eating the cream of the crop, whatever they want. And, you also have to, there's more parasite issues that come up and you have to move them more frequently. So all of this, I'm like, these are just little brilliant nuggets that a newbie farmer and rancher like us, I'm like, this is gold, people.
Well, and it also can help you relax about whatever environment you're in, because I have heard so many, not great stories and, about the whole drought and dry land and all this kind of stuff. But now here we see and hear that the forage is actually more nutrient dense. So there is always, and this is just brilliant because there's always a perspective that serves us.
Yeah. A silver lining.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I thought was really important is just the big picture. Does my operation match my environment? So just because maybe it's something your family's been doing for years and years and years, does it make sense for your climate and for your area, for your lifestyle?
Right.
All of those things. That was one of the examples that we saw was the Dixon Water Foundation. They have this ranch outside of Decatur. They also have the ranch in a big ranch in Marfa. And they've been in a huge drought in Marfa. I think he said 2 inches in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so they had a bunch of cattle. They had just had calving season. So they're
cow calves.
And so they had just they destocked the whole Marfa ranch and moved all of those cattle to the Decatur ranch just so they could reevaluate and do it differently. This is not working anymore. We don't have the forage to take care of it. And so that was part of their drought planning. When we get to this point, this is what we're doing. And so now they are reimagining what that Marfa ranch is going to be for their operation. And they told us, but I don't know if
they're going to put stalkers out there.
Yeah.
Rather than cows and calves.
And then just offer themselves more flexibility.
Yes. Because they would only need to feed them out for like 3 months or so before they sold them. Yes. And the cow that's nursing or carrying a calf is going to need more nutrients than a stalker steer. And
if Daddy's listening to this, he might pass out right now. But, another thing that they talk about is which breed of cattle do you have?
Yeah.
Is there potentially maybe you should change or go with sheep or goats? These are just things that I think in succession planning and reevaluating and creating your actual land plan. Those are all the important things to consider.
Yeah. Very important things to consider. On the last day, Wayne Knight, who is one of the directors for HMI.
Isn't he the executive director?
Yes, who's from South Africa originally. And his parents worked with Alan Savory when he was starting all of this. So anyway, I love that connection. That's fantastic. But
he's fantastic.
He is fantastic. And so is his wife, Hillary. Really enjoyed them. One of the things he said is a well-constructed plan improves quality of life for people and animals.
I literally was just sitting here reading that same thing, saying we have to talk about that.
It's so important, that quality of life for all of us. Nothing that lives on this earth should not have quality of life. So I really am so excited to, and man, okay, so we came home.
Hold on, because let's layer on top of that too. The quality of the soil health, like all of these things all mirror
Life
each other.
In the soil. Yes.
All of it. And everything that they taught us mirrored that.
Yeah.
And they were all living that. And they all had examples to share with us.
Yes.
Brilliant people.
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me your story. Oh, great. I made you forget. Gosh.
That's right.
Sorry.
It'll come back. Maybe I'll tell you next week. But we have 9 minutes, 8 minutes.
Well, I'm not trying to get off
No, I'm just saying.
The horn.
Maybe it'll come back.
I'm flipping through my notes because I'm like, we're going to be talking about something totally different.
Okay.
Next week.
This is it. I want to talk about this all the time. Just all of this. I've come home and I was a little sad on Saturday morning when I knew it was our last day. We had such a fun time with all of these people. They are like family. I remember all of their names. I mean,
I know, me too. That's crazy.
So
we're terrible
sweet.
at that normally.
I know. It's so sweet. And I felt a little melancholy when we got back on Sunday. It was like, cause I didn't even feel so tired because I was really excited to just get into this. And, I started a budget. I'm, pulling all of our financial stuff in personally for us because I want to just keep rolling with this information. And we did this financial plan for this farm. And, so now it's like, okay, I'm excited about this. Keep moving, keep the momentum going. I got a phone call or a text actually from one of the gals that was saying she was sad about us all being apart, but then she listened to the Soil Sisters podcast and it made her feel better.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I am just like, that's what I have had. It was like transitioning back into normal life. And now just like, okay, what are we going to do?
You were having withdrawals from school. That's very strange for you.
Strange.
But you mentioned us working on that family's plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that I feel like was a gift from God because that family's operation, the enterprises that they had were eerily similar to our family's ranch.
I know. I was like, are you kidding me?
Like, all we have to do is change some numbers just rewrite everyone's bios.
I know.
So I feel like this was truly
a
divine experience.
It was. And all the people who know me and know how well or not well I did in school would be shocked and amazed. And so proud. I've paid attention the whole time. I was totally engaged. We had 2 days that we were out there for like 12 hours. And I was still standing and paying attention at the end of it.
Oh my gosh. We all got chiggers.
Yeah.
The itching is almost gone. I mean, I'm telling myself that story. It's going away. But yeah, that's been a reminder of the experience.
So funny.
One of the challenges that was thrown to us by Tara at the end during our final circle of trust, whatever we call that, it was like, what are a couple of things that you're going to get done? And so I think it's really sweet that you were like melancholy and missing people. I came back and just started checking boxes.
I love it.
I've already made the contact with Texas A&M AgriLife and have asked about Texas hemp seed access for our on-farm trials.
Perfect.
I've organized that stuff. I've sent it to our team. I've uploaded it to our working document platform.
I love it.
But yeah, I am fired up and feeling good getting it all done. And I am seeing my superpower right now as having all of this knowledge in these different industries and my networks and being able to be a bridge and connect dots on so many levels. I just feel like whenever they were saying, okay, make a list of people that you can lean on or people to use as resources. I'm like, can we use a second page? Yes. I have so many people.
I love it.
I feel just #super blessed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I wanted to say, back again, just raving about how great it was. I felt like a kid, a happy, well-adjusted, with no stress or pressure kid. They fed us good food. every day. It was like they were making sure we got enough to eat so that we could pay attention and learn all the stuff they wanted us to learn. And
cake at lunch,
I'm telling you,
popsicles in the afternoon. It was like being a kid.
It was the best. So, oh my gosh.
Well, and the other cool thing that I love is the fact that we have a handful of these ranchers and farmers that are in our area, Alyssa and Roscoe and Laura and Clyde and Coleman. Well, he's not in Coleman yet.
Edward
is going to be in Coleman soon, right? Or is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Coleman. So just places where when we're driving home,
we drive right through there.
We can stop and check in. I'm excited to introduce Laura to Bob Kirkwood.
Me too.
Just so much goodness that we can do within our farming and ranching community in Texas. And then with these connections in Kansas and North Dakota.
And y'all, women.
Minnesota, my North Dakota.
That's right. Some really amazing women doing amazing work. It was so exciting.
Yes, there were so many females, super smart, capable females there getting it done. And I appreciated that.
I know. I love it so much.
This has been a fun one, sis.
Yes.
Connect with the Soil Sisters at txsoilsisters.co. Submit questions, guest or show ideas, and sponsorship inquiries. The Soil Sisters podcast was created and produced by Joanna Nuding. Editing and sound design are in the capable hands of the PodConnects Podcast Network.